Welcome to another Mark Bishop show. Well, PETA scientists have recently released Research Modernization now, a bold, innovative strategy to end failed experiments on animals and transition to cutting edge, human relevant science that can propel us towards treatments and cures. So, to share more about this very important topic, Dr. Emily Trunnell, Director of Science Advancement and Outreach for PETA. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here.
So, what's all the excitement about?
Well, right now there is a huge goal in the administration to cut waste. And a really obvious place to start is the use of animals to model human biology. So, 110 million animals are used and killed in US laboratories every year. Yet the statistics show us it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's not helping humans. So, for example, the new drugs that go into human clinical trials that have been tested in animals, those fail 95% of the time. 95% or 90% of basic research, curiosity research done in universities doesn't result in any benefit to humans. And up to 89% of the time, these experiments aren't even reproducible from laboratory to laboratory. So we're really at a critical point. We have all of this evidence. We have great new, innovative, human relevant technologies that can replace the use of animals. Society does not want to see animals experimented on, and it's a great way to cut waste and make government funding of science much more efficient.
Well, more than 10 million animals are killed in US laboratories every year. Yet 95% of new drugs do fail in human clinical trials. 90% of basic research, most of which involves animals, fails to result in human benefit. And up to 89% of preclinical research is irreproducible. So, it's not right, is it?
No, it's not. Yet it continues to go on. And until there's a push, until there's a mandate to switch to non-animal methods, which other countries have put out such plans, but the US hasn't done this. Until that is initiated, it's going to continue happening. But we need a strong paradigm shift towards much more compassionate and relevant research.
I want you to touch on the cruel experiments factor, like the forced swim test. This is the one where mice are dropped into breakers of water. Tell us about that.
So scientists have, or some scientists, although the test has been widely discredited now, but some scientists think that if you drop a mouse or a rat in a beaker of water and then watch how long they struggle and swim and try not to drown, that this is somehow related to human depression or which drugs might work to treat human depression. But the test simply doesn't work, yet it's still being done in the US, funded by the US National Institutes of Health. And it's a horrible test. It's a great example of the waste and the misleading science that continues to be done. Another example, we've had 40 years of torturing and killing monkeys for HIV vaccines that have
Yeah.
never come to fruition, yet those studies continue. So there's an opportunity here to really end that cruelty and transition to much more humane methods.
Well, you're trying to stop what's not working, fund what does work, weigh harms and benefits, and offer education and training. So this is the whole plan, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's bold, it's innovative, but it's pretty common sense. Stop funding what doesn't work. Start funding what does work. Stop funding experiments on animals where there's been no benefit to humans. We mentioned the 95% of drugs that fail in human clinical trials. That number is even worse for diseases like cancer. It's 96.6%. For stroke and sepsis, it's 100%. So it doesn't make any sense to keep, shoving money in those directions when we can be doing better science. There's also, there's no system in place right now, and people would assume this would be the case, they would hope, but when experiments on animals are funded and approved, there's no one asking, has this type of research worked in the past? Or are the harms to animals so great that even the very minuscule, if completely non-existent benefits would outweigh those. So we need to consider these things before animal experiments are funded and approved. And
Mm.
training and education is so important. I mean, this is the science of the future. And our young researchers in the US need to know about non-animal research methods and be trained to use them.
Well, of course, Dr. Trunnell, you get people that say, well, look, if you don't use the animals, how are we ever going to know? How are we ever going to learn? And how do we help humanity with these diseases that are coming out left, right, and center?
Well, the sad part is, that hasn't been happening with experiments on animals. So, even though a drug goes through animal testing, it doesn't guarantee anything about whether or not it will be safe and effective in humans. But these new methods, they're based in human biology. Some of them, use human cells that can be really non-invasively taken from patients with these diseases and studied and used to test drugs. There's advanced computer modeling that mines all of this data we have about human genetics and human proteomics and is able to predict human biology and human health and disease, as well as imaging techniques and machine learning and all these great things that show time after time to better predict human response. I can give you one great example. So
Okay.
there was a drug, an antibody drug that went through animal testing. It went out into the human population. The animal test didn't see anything wrong with the drug, but when it got into humans, it caused, blood clots that were really devastating to the people involved. When human organ on chip, some of these newer methods came out, that company retested the drug and predicted those blood clots. So these methods have an opportunity to help make sure that the things we put into our bodies are safe and not safe for a mouse, safe for a human.
Yeah, that's it. It's a sensible argument. You just want to redirect funds from experiments on animals to reliable non-animal methods. And you're proving it now more and more and more. And you know what you're talking about. I mean, you have earned a BS in nutrition science, a PhD in neuroscience from the University of Georgia. And by the way, lots of your papers, letters, and opinion pieces, they've appeared in numerous publications: Advanced Science, Drug Discovery Today, and Scientific American. You know what you're about, and it must frustrate you to see that there are other ways without the hurt we have to do to these poor things.
It's particularly close to my heart. When I was doing my training for my PhD in neuroscience, I used mice and rats, and I was under the impression that, this was the way that we advance science and learn more about biology. And so to know now that there are all these other methods that are so much better, they don't involve, the harm to animals and the killing of animals that I had to participate in, but they're not being, talked about and pushed and mandated and explored to the extent that they really should be. So it is frustrating, but I think this is a wonderful time to make change. I think we're at a turning point for science, and we just
Mm-hmm.
need that push.
Why not? There's everything else going on with change around us. We might as well have finally opened the darn door. I just wish you could show more films. I'm a great follower of PETA, but show more bloodthirsty films to millions of people who don't even realize what the heck goes on. But never mind, PETA.org, that's PETA.org/RMN. Study more on this, read more about it, grab a cup of Joe in your podgies, whatever. But thank you, Dr. Emily Trunnell. Dr. Emily Trunnell, ladies and gentlemen, Director of Science Advancement and Outreach for PETA.
Thank you, Mark.